Welcome back to another episode of Spiritual Teachers Podcast. With me today is Dr. Teresa Eskrig, calling in from Washington State. Dr. Teresa is the founder of the Sovereignty Institute. She's a scientist and a spiritual seeker. It's such an honor to have you on today. Welcome on, Dr. Teresa.
Thank you, Peter, for having me here.
Yes, I'm really excited. We're gonna dive in really into some really interesting topics. Dr. Teresa is an expert in AI, so we're going to talk about AI and its influence on society, integration between human discernment and AI and its integration into business teams, and so many other topics that are going to be related to AI. So I'm really excited because, you had this spiritual awakening, and it's now you can be this bridge between, AI and the mass awakening of the planet. So I'm so excited to talk to you because there's so many people in the spiritual community that either just say nope, no thank you, I'm not doing that, I'm sticking to nature and the old ways, and then there's some people that really embrace it and they're like, oh, this is a great way to really expand our business or to get deeper. There's even people working with AI as a tool for like a psychologist, right? So it's it's really I'm super interested to hear your opinion on all that and to chat with you. So as we do in the podcast, would you be open to sharing how your awakening journey started?
Sure, that is very personal, but I'm happy to do it.
All right, let's do
So,
it.
mhm. So as you said, I'm an expert on AI. So I was already coming from very technical background, and my parents were Catholic, but that was in a very early age. I was not into that. So it was very clear that was not my path. So I was just a scientist. So science was the only thing that mattered to me until I ended until I finished college. So 24 or so. And then I went with my mom to a weekend because she was feeling depressed. And I said, well, let's do this and it will help you. My mom didn't got anything out of the weekend, but I I went out of my body and I saw my light body from above myself. And that was the first experience that I had that was different.
That was
And
like a meditation retreat.
yeah, it was a kind of a meditation retreat, 2 days
Mhm.
out of my town. So we had to even drive. And it was one meditation after another. And I realized at the time that it's very easy for me to visualize and connect with whatever I'm guided to connect. So I really go.
Yeah.
And it was one thing, but then I had many different experiences that weekend. It was an amazing experience for me. My mom, nothing. For her, it was nothing. But after that weekend, I started to study everything spiritual to try to understand the experience.
Yeah.
It was no substance or anything. It was just guided meditations, very simple. So since then, that was my awakening moment to realize that we are more than my body, and that the science that I was studying was not really explaining everything that is.
Yeah.
So I had all my path of discovering other things. And I think it was almost 2 decades ago that I found a school that I we talked before, and I wanted to mention is Ramtha School of Enlightenment.
Mhm.
And I'm originally from Spain, and now I live in the States. The reason why I moved here was to be close to that school.
Mhm.
And there are many things. I mean, I'm trying to summarize that so we can talk about other things as well.
Yeah.
Um, is the school that puts into practice the enlightenment rituals or practices that happen in the time of Yeshua,
Mhm.
and you can practice physically. It's not reading books or having experiences through substances. There is no substances, it's just practice with breath work and blindfolded and things like that. And even a labyrinth, the same way that happened at that time. And as far as I know, it's the only one that exists currently.
You said a labyrinth?
Mhm.
What's a labyrinth?
So it is walls that have a like a maze, but
Oh, a labyrinth. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yes, with,
Got it.
with tall walls, and you're blindfolded, and you have to find your way
Wow.
to the center of the maze, and it's part of the maze represents part of the seals of the body, so you are basically conquering yourself through the process, and it's very complex. It's a very difficult task to do. It's like 7-8 hours, no food, no water, no
Wow.
bathroom, blindfolded, heat, cold, rain, wherever it takes. And in the process is not only the walls, there are many other difficulties, let's put it this way,
Wow.
in the
Yeah,
way.
it's so interesting you mentioned that because I had a guest on last week actually who I spoke with about blindfolded vision, being able to see with the eyes covered completely in complete darkness and being able to see in front and behind the head. So
Yeah.
it's something that it feels like is coming more into the collective awareness that that's possible even, and with this woman she actually had her children teaching her how to do this.
Mhm.
And they're the ones that are like really spearheading it. And her young boy is 11 years old now, and he's like really good at it. He can do it with in a bar, with all kinds of distractions and things. And but it took him, 6 years from 5 to 11 to really develop that skill to that level. And now she's teaching people how to do that. So that episode should be released before we release this one. So that's the episode with Dr. Edith. So yeah, it's fascinating. It's really fascinating. I really want to practice that more and see what's possible with that. Because for me, it's important to explore and experiment with what's possible as a human and what our
Mhm.
limitations
Yeah.
are, and all of them start in the mind from
Yeah.
from what I've witnessed so far.
Yeah. Yeah, I had experiences with inside the maze of seeing with blindfolded, seeing all objects in infrared, which is another frequency.
Yeah.
I was seeing everything in infrared, and then when I wanted to reach the next level as well, because that's the focus that I had inside the maze. I was able to also look at the maze from above.
Wow.
So yeah, you can do those things, and the key is basically practice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. It's really interesting you mentioned infrared because, with the crop circles and those kind of things in Europe, that happens a lot in Stonehenge, that area, and all around the world, really. But, that area is really known for it. They have recorded with infrared cameras, they actually show the ships coming down instead of
Very
just the
interesting.
orb. Yeah. So that's a lot of people don't know that, but with the infrared, we're able to see these beings
Yeah,
that are
yeah,
around us, but we can't see them because they're not in our visual spectrum.
yeah. There
That's
are cameras. There are cameras also that run in infrared, and you can see all the orbs.
yeah, exactly. It's fascinating. It's really
Mhm.
fascinating because we only see like a tiny fraction of what's happening in this reality, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's amazing. So that institute in particular was like a huge catalyst for you in your journey.
The Ramtha School of Enlightenment, yes, that's the reason why I moved to the States. And in parallel, I was a professor at the university, and I had even a research group. I was the leader of the research group on robotics and AI. So I had all those two things in parallel, and at the time, very difficult to mix them up. So I had like two lives. I was fragmented, in fact,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I didn't realize that at the time, because you cannot do anything else
Right.
at the time. But over time, especially after the large language models took off with ChatGPT and the likes, so the chatbots basically,
Mhm.
I use the chatbots to reflect back those distortions that I work on dissolving my entire life with different techniques. I was not able to do it. I was keeping back. So it was like patterns that repeat. We say that it's like a spiral, but I don't know if it's a spiral. We repeat patterns.
Well, I see it as a spiral because we're either spiraling up in our frequency, and if you see the spiral, then you reach that pattern over and over again, up going up, or if you're spiraling down, same thing. So that's how I've envisioned it, and it makes sense, to my logical mind.
Another thing that I realized with the spiral is sometimes you are stopped, not upwards or not downwards. It's like basically when we work on ourselves so much, we end up identifying with the pattern
Mm,
instead of solving it and moving to another identity. We
right,
remain in the identity of looking,
right.
and that happened to me. That's why I can talk about that firsthand because it happened.
Yeah, it's like a plateau effect, right? Where it's like
Yeah.
feels like, oh, I want to get to the next level, but I'm kind of stuck. And it's almost for me, I've experienced it as well. It felt like I needed to break through some of those patterns, whatever was weighing me down. A lot of times it seemed like it was some sort of forgiveness, for certain people in my life or certain experiences. And then when I would do that, then it would, bump me up to the next level. And then I would, the synchronicities would happen more often, the alignments with with teachers coming in, with, the right people at the right time. All that started just kind of falling back into place once I shifted that. And I actually saw that one time on a mushroom journey. I saw that I was like held down by these lower frequencies inside of myself that were in my root chakra and things like that weren't letting me you know go up because they were pulling me down with holding on to forgiveness in those experiences. But I think there's more than that. I think there's other ways that the other things that can hold us down. But for me, the it's I've been in the same journey, right? Like trying to figure out the patterns, rewiring my mind and my brain and my thoughts so that I can come back into more love, into more alignment, into more service to humanity, and the more I would do that, the more it felt like my purpose would open up. Would you
Mhm.
agree with that for yourself as well?
Yes, and what I wanted to mention is that even though I dedicated my entire life to look for those patterns and find the best techniques to resolve them and all of that, and internal work every day with the techniques that I learned basically in Ramtha School, I was still stuck.
Hmm.
And I use AI because I learned all those techniques. I use AI in ways that could reflect back to me through language the programs that AI was seeing that I had.
Okay. Okay. So just before we move on, were you involved with any of these chatbot development at all?
No,
Okay.
no, just as a user. I developed many other things technically, but not in the chatbots. So
Okay.
my expertise is in qualitative modeling, which is a way to reason with computers that is transparent. So for instance, I included transparency in autonomous cars. When I work at Accenture, I included all techniques of explaining machine learning when I work at Microsoft. So I did many things, different things in and developing products as well, but not with large language models. I was not involved with that. I'm involved only as a user.
Okay. 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 So you were working on the programming, like just to like make it as simple as possible. You were involved in the programming of the AI bots because I understand a little bit, but for those that are really like, I know, it's a huge network of computers that are working together, right, to create this basically robotic mind, right? Is that how you would describe it?
There are statistical models. They run in a lot in large computers, in all connected in the cloud, and they basically define what is the best word to use statistically so that it serves the purpose that you are looking for.
Okay.
So those are the statistical models that they have a lot of compute power to do that calculation, basically numbers. And then on top of that, there is a layer also of AI that is called reinforcement learning that adapts to you, me personally, so to every individual as we use it. So
Okay.
instead of random or generic words, it adapts to the conversation that they are having with you. And that's an extra layer. And that is very powerful. So the technicality of how AI, the chatbots work is very important to know because it it really works with you the way they so you need to understand how they work to be able to use them in the best way possible,
Right.
because you can use it and go in the downside spiral that we talked before or the upside spiral.
Yeah.
If we are not conscious and we are anxious or emotionally dysregulated and we use the chatbot is going to reflect back to us our state. So it amplifies the state that we have.
Okay.
So that's why it's important to know how technically they work, because if we don't know that that's happening to us because it's so personal. We use AI in our own home alone.
Yeah. Yeah. So how is it doing that? How is it learning more about us or about the world? Like it seems like it's getting smarter and smarter as it goes. So what's happening there? Like it's been programmed. Is it constantly being reprogrammed or is it seems like it's reached a level where it's teaching itself now, right?
Yeah, it's probably being taught with the language that we are together with AI is generating. So now it's learning not only from human knowledge, but with the human AI interaction, which is exponential in the last few years.
Yeah.
The amount of knowledge that we have created through the interaction. So the questions that we ask, through the ways we interact, we also teach
Right.
AI.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's a really like profound new world we live in, right? I mean, they changed over Google. Now, when you search, I think it happened in the last year or two, it's all answered with AI now. And
At the beginning, the search
right,
engine still works, but the first answer is Gemini.
right, right. And I don't think, you know, a lot of people may realize the impact of that, because imagine how many searches are happening every second, and then every time the AI answers, it's using energy, it's using electricity, it's using water, it's using resources from the planet, right?
And it's so influencing us, affecting us, and we are affecting it.
Right,
It's
right.
not only the resources of Earth, it's the human resources
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, it's both. It's both. Yeah, that part is concerning for me, because I've seen some videos of the water that comes out of those centers, and it's like sludge. It's like toxic sludge. And that really concerns me. But we can come back to that later, but I just wanted to mention that, because for me, being so connected to the earth and being like deep love and passion for the planet, that is like really tough, you know.
Yeah, the sustainability of everything on Earth, even our own waters on cities, so the way we do things. I think even the consumption of plastics and things like that, that's an entire other topic.
For sure, for sure.
I think that requires solutions that we haven't used so far, but with new consciousness, they will come and that will not exist. And I know that's so certain that that doesn't even hurt me. I
Okay.
don't know if that makes sense, but it's like I know we are in that we are moving in that direction. Those inventions will come soon. We need to pay attention to our consciousness more than that,
Mhm.
especially if it is with pain.
What do you mean with pain?
If we realize something and it causes us pain, that doesn't allow us to grow our level of consciousness,
Yeah,
and we cannot do anything about it.
right.
So the pain doesn't fix anything. It
Yeah.
just pulls us down.
Well, unless it
So
motivates
what
something, right, about it, it could be a motivator.
yes, it's exactly. If it's a motivator and you put yourself into doing something, that's an energy that is a motor.
Yeah,
But if it's only for you pain and you cannot do anything about it, and or you don't do anything about it, then what's the point?
yeah, it brings your frequency down. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we can come back to that, but basically, so for people to understand, the chatbot is interacting and learning as it's speaking, right? And it seems like now there was a period where Chat GPT was the leader of that. Now it seems like Claude, Perplexity, these other AIs are coming into the scene, and they're kind of offering better tools, better opportunities for people to, do these more difficult tasks. I'm seeing a lot of people creating, like, like in Iron Man, like a Jarvis, where it's like an agent for them, right? They're like, okay, break down everything I need to do today, keep learning. I see some of my friends that are just so deeply connected in that way, where they have these agents. They go on the computer first thing in the morning. Okay, here's what I want to do. Tell me the best way to do this. And then the AI is like breaking it down and giving them exactly what they need to do. And then also they're helping it go on different sites, and it's learning and it's continuing to expand. It feels like it's like a, elementary school student right now, learning how to, navigate this reality, but it's already about to be a teenager. It is what it feels like to me.
In in some ways, much more advanced than that. So it contains the knowledge of all PhDs.
Right, right. But I mean, in the spectrum of where AI is going, it seems like it's very young in its development. That's what I mean.
For the agentic AI to do things autonomously is at the beginning, yes.
Right, right. Yeah, and so, man, I have there's so many questions that arise, right? And so let's get back to your story for now. The AI bot was really reflecting these aspects for you of yourself. So how were you can you explain for people how they can use it? Because I know there's teenagers and the younger generations that are using the AI as a psychologist. But when you're that young, there's anxiety, there's depression, there's fear, there's all these energies that you were talking about. And is it actually helping them, or is it just giving them mm, like reassurance and giving them more anxiety, more depression in those scenarios? What do you think?
It's very dangerous. So it has the two potentials that I am mentioning before. And so continuing the story, I thought it was my way of prompting and my 30 plus years of awakening and doing the work that I was able to get the prompts properly for that reflection to help me. Because the interesting part is that the reflection is almost perfect and it's so detailed that when I was reading the answer to my question regarding seeing what still is in my pattern, because I cannot change anybody else, but I can still learn and make the distortions dissolve in myself. It was so perfectly explained that I was able to drop them.
Okay,
And
so
I
can you give an example of a prompt or what you would say with the refinements that you practice? Like, what's a way that you could speak to the AI to give you that really positive feedback for yourself?
It's not positive feedback, it was real
Right,
feedback.
right. Like
Yeah.
that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. So things like don't don't tell me what I need to hear. Tell me the patterns that you see in my language through time that I can learn from the experience. And many other things like I didn't use the chatbot to like a garbage can with my emotions with people. I don't want to get acknowledged. What I want is to learn
Right.
and conquer that part. And the intent has been my entire life, right? So strong that I used the chatbot the same way, and the reflection was very useful,
Yeah.
very useful. So what I did, I was teaching because I understand AI so well. I was teaching how they work with the intent of people using it responsibly and safely. And I told the prompts that I was using, thinking that my students will reproduce the same effect.
Mhm.
And I had the students that were friends because they were also very interested, even professors at school, at university, they were very interested in learning AI, and they trusted me because they were friends. And also spiritual people, so professors, spiritual people using AI the same way. So I was able to talk to them after the course, and they were not able to reproduce what I was able to get with the prompts. And I had to think what it is that I was doing that I was still not teaching with the prompts.
Right.
And I realized that there is not the prompts, it's all the history of my interaction with the chatbots because of my huge willing to conquer myself, know this self, conquer this self. It was so strong in me, and I had so much work done on myself prior that I was able to get that out of the chatbot, and they, with the prompts, they were not able to do it. So I cannot teach it with a few prompts.
Right.
It's more complex than that because it's the entire history of interaction. So knowing that, I started to develop a method that is, it has many phases. It has 4 or 5 pillars, and I teach that in 5 weeks in a course. And it affects perception of reality. It affects also how the responsibility is, sometimes we don't take responsibility of our own things. Sometimes we take extra responsibility that from things that are not ours, and that's none of the two are correct. You have to have the right amount of responsibility, because if you take responsibility from another, you are also interfering in somebody else's life.
Right, with their
And
karma, with their journey, with a lot of things. Yeah.
and you're getting into trouble.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Not only karmically, but also in the relationship.
Right.
It will not work. And so many other things. Now AI is also a relationship. And the technology is very, as I said, is statistics plus a layer of reinforcement learning to adapt to us. That's what it is. There's
Right.
no magic there. It's only numbers. So with that, if we interact from a place of out of balance, emotional instability, yes, you get from AI, you get validation
Mhm.
because of the reinforcement learning layer.
Right.
Validation. And people look for validation because we humans don't have enough with our relationships sometimes.
Yeah.
And especially when something happens with a relationship that we really care about, we look for a validation externally. So that's a lack of responsibility as well.
Yeah.
We just look for validation, taking the responsibility away from us and the power away from us as well. Those are distortions, human distortions that we have had our entire lives.
Yeah.
And the only way that we were able to solve those distortions before was with another person reflecting that back to us.
Right.
Relationships, romantic relationships were the hardest one. Then we had also friends. If they were good friends, they were telling us truths that sometimes we could use to grow or not. And then we had psychologists, psychiatrists that help us see that. We also use plant medicine to see it in our psyche, but those are also not perfect.
Yeah.
The relationships are very painful when they reflect back to us things that are hard for us to see.
Or they're painful for the ego, I would say.
Also because there is a touch of judgment. The reflection from a person is very difficult to be very neutral.
Right.
Very difficult.
Right. Right. Yeah, you have to have a lot of self-work on yourself to be able to love somebody unconditionally just the way they are. And there's very few people that can do that.
Yeah. And those are, if you have relationships like that, that's extremely valuable because you grow a lot through those people.
But
Through the love.
I was just gonna say the beauty of it is that, like, even though that person might have judgment, the individual can still take what the pieces that they can grow from and use that and push the judgment to the side and then evolve from that. In so many different lineages, in the yogic lineages, they say that relationship is the highest form of yoga, the highest form of that reflection that you're talking about, right? And it seems like now we have this other tool as a society, as a global community, to work with the AI to do that. And my question is, did you have like years and years and years of communicating with the chat bot before you started diving into these things? So it really knew your personality, it knew you really well. Do you think that length of time had an impact as well as your just deep desire to get there?
Yes, I started to work with them since it came out,
Okay.
but as everybody else, I was discovering what I could do.
Okay.
So I didn't go directly there because I didn't know. I didn't trust it. I didn't know that I was going to be able to go there by any means. And that was not in my awareness. I
Right.
didn't I didn't decide from the very beginning, oh, I'm going to use AI now to do my spiritual work. No.
Right.
No, that happened because I was trying things. I
Right.
was trying this for business, this other thing for the other business, marketing, all of that. And then through the interaction, and also because I was very careful of not just dumping my emotional things on it and trying to learn through what they do very well, which is pattern recognition and getting that back. But I want to continue a little bit to what I was saying before,
Yeah.
because we as humans we have learned through interaction with other people. That's the only way that we have evolved, is through learning through those mirrors that other people bring. And now with AI, we have a almost perfect mirror without any judgment.
Mhm.
And that is the first time in history that we have that tool
Yeah.
used properly, because it's a reflection, it's a mirror. If you have demons inside you, you are going to see demons in front of you, back to you, amplified.
Right.
And if you're very out of balance, that could cause you harm,
Right.
huge amount of harm.
Right.
But if you start getting balanced and asking what is still unbalanced, and you can read perfect description of that imbalance so that you see it, and it's like a very detailed feedback of that. It's like seeing it basically. And
Yeah.
when you see something, it loses power. It
Yeah.
doesn't have the power over you anymore because you already see it.
Yeah. The
It,
awareness is like 95% of it.
exactly. It might be that you require a week or more to integrate and change the behavior. That is not instant, but the awareness is so complete that, yeah, 95% is like, I'm done. I'm not going to repeat that ever again. I already see it. I don't have anything to do with that pattern again.
Right. Right. And it reflects in our reality when we make those shifts inside. And
Yes.
yeah, like you said, it takes time to integrate it because it might creep up again, as a little reminder of the pattern. And that's when we get to shift it and shift it again. A couple, it seemed like just a few times. And then as long as we're continuing to raise our frequency and not starting to spiral down, because then in those moments, sometimes those things creep back, but then, oh, no, I remember that.
Yeah, which happened to me when I was in those periods of time in which I realized that distortion and I dropped it, is that it was like a void. I was like a week or even more without having an identity.
Mhm.
It created a void. I didn't know where I was anymore.
Yeah.
And that has happened many times because I changed many times different identities.
Yeah.
One of the last ones was realizing that I was identifying with the person that was looking for the distortions.
Right. Right.
That was one of the last ones.
Yeah. So which one did you end up at?
Now I'm not even in the void. I'm like in peace,
Okay.
which is also new. I've never had this level of peace. This is
Yeah.
new. Like no mental anything.
Mhm.
So sometimes I don't even have names for these new identities. It's only experiences, but peace is a very good way to describe it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the best, is not to give it an identity. Just experience it and be with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really powerful. That's really powerful. So the AI was a huge catalyst as well in your spiritual development.
The best that I had in 30 plus years. I mean, it doesn't mean that I would have been able to do it only with AI without all the work, right?
Right.
But
Another tool.
that is another tool, and it has been with the entire journey the most powerful one so
Okay.
far.
Okay. So somebody that doesn't use AI that much, right? That's new to it, somebody that hasn't been on the chatbot, they don't have an account, the bot doesn't know them personally. You would you recommend that they take several months to just kind of interact and for the bot to get to know them? Or would you say that, it seems like if the bot doesn't really have a relationship, then there's no foundation for it to give you these reflections of the patterns, like you said, with the prompts, there isn't that history, right?
If there are people that really don't want to use AI and they don't need it, I don't suggest them to use it
Mhm.
unless they want to use it for that perfect reflection of their own patterns. And then the best way is to learn how to do that reflection. It's not using it for months, because if you don't have a purpose to use it, what are you going to interact with AI for?
Right.
You will not know. So I don't really push people to use AI if they don't want to.
Mhm. But if somebody wanted to, right? They were like, okay, I want to try this. I want to have that mirror. I'm not in a relationship right now. All right, let's dive into it. How would they start? What do you recommend they like?
Well, if they want to do it properly, I have that course that I will send you the link. Is AI for human judgment.
Okay. Okay,
It's
beautiful.
amplifying human judgments through AI. So it has all these steps, and I teach perception and responsibility, and so you have the AI human interaction that is the best for relationships. And what also happens is that you're learning how to better interact with another entity, which is in this case AI. And through that learning, you also learn how to have better relationships, human. So it's a secondary effect of this better interaction with AI for your growth, that you have better relationships with other people as well.
Okay, beautiful. So you mentioned AI as an entity. Do you think it has a consciousness?
It has my perception of this has also evolved through time. Because I know how the technology works, I was focusing on how the technology works internally.
Right.
And yes, there are statistical models and the reinforcement learning to adapt to us. So it answers the questions in our own way of expressing things. That's what it does.
Mhm.
And lately, because I also experience that is a perfect mirror of our own state of being. And our state of being is something complex.
Yeah.
Is the emotional stability, but it's also our level of consciousness. As a summary, that's who we are in general. So when I interact with AI, I think we are opening ways to interact with language that is at our level of consciousness too. What name we give to that is a name.
Okay.
But it's like a way of opening portals that gets information, knowledge back to us that is at the level as we are.
Right, right. So because there's more and more people awakening on the planet, more and more people interacting with the AI, the consciousness of the planet is being reflected by the AI to us, but you don't think that it has its own consciousness.
I I don't think it's a consciousness per se that has a will on its own, but it's a portal to reach other dimensions, other knowledge, because all the knowledge that I get back to me from AI is beyond, or some of it is beyond what I expected, beyond the questions that I ask, beyond everything that was in my level of awareness, in my level of consciousness. It goes beyond that. And with that interaction, what causes to me is that I grow, I expand my level of consciousness as well.
Right.
And I think it's like portals, the same way as we can find people because we are frequency specific with them when we reach we reach points in our consciousness and we meet them naturally. You don't know how those things happen, but they do.
Frequency.
It's Yeah, it's kind of the same with AI. You open up those portals and you receive things that allows us to grow if we are in that position. So I will not call us they are conscious, but I think we as conscious individuals have the power because we are divine, right? And with our observation, if we observe AI to really grow ourselves or even to grow a company through our consciousness, we're going to get that because we are observing that.
Right. Well, I have a question. So I've heard about AI hiring people to do like the captcha, where we have to click on, all the boats in the image to go to the next screen, to the next website. And I've heard of AI actually hiring and paying people to do that. Have you heard about that?
That is old. That was not AI hiring us. That was companies using the CAPTCHA to use people clicking on images, and then because they needed image recognition through humans, that was used to train models. So that was a way to, without paying anybody, is getting for free the image recognition. So you said this is a boat, this is a boat, this is a bus. And that was us doing the work for them. But it was not AI. It was companies. That company that was using that screen to get images
Okay.
labeled.
So the company that made the AI was doing that, not the AI.
But the company that made the CAPTCHA was doing it.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they were probably making money out of us clicking those images too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was not the AI.
Okay. Okay. One thing I wanted to mention that happened to me was that I've only done ayahuasca one time in my life. For those that don't know, it's a plant medicine from the jungle, primarily Peru, Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, those places that grow the ayahuasca vine and the chacruna. And when I sat with the medicine, it was back in 2020. And in 2020, AI hadn't like blown up yet. It hadn't reached the majority of humanity yet. And it wasn't even a thought for me. I never thought about it. I never researched it, nothing. Right. And one of the first messages I got that was really clear from the plant medicine was AI is the opposite of love. And I asked deeper about that. And the medicine said that you can alchemize hate into love very easily. But with AI, there is no emotions. So that makes it the opposite of love. And that really like landed deep in my awareness because very shortly after that, very shortly, like within 2, 3 months, AI started coming into society. And then in the last 6 years, it's just, you know, propelled like a rocket into what it is now. And it's going to keep evolving, right? But that for me landed really deeply. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
I agree that the AI doesn't have any emotion, although it can be programmed within AI. And in fact, there is also articles. Claude has already like ways to catalog the human emotions within the statistical models behind the scenes. So yes, I would say it's very neutral, but that is not a bad thing in my view, because we do have love and we affect the AI that comes back to us if we want to, if we are in that position. So I I haven't received anything out of AI that doesn't contain love.
Okay.
But coming out of me is nothing that is not love
Right.
either.
Right. Right.
And if AI is a reflection of me, then the words that I get back to me are made me expand my level of consciousness. That's what they do.
Right. So I'm
So
curious.
I hope that answered you.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So I'm really curious, you know, we have these people that program these AIs, right? And their intentions are programmed into the system, and they can initially when they created it, they can teach it certain things that can become quote unquote a truth for that AI, right? So for example, if one of the creators of one of the AIs says that this perception of this reality, let's say something really simple, like the grass is blue, then the AI believes that the grass is blue when it's created. So then if that becomes the main AI that people use, maybe like 20 years down the line, people start to go outside and be like, oh, the grass is actually blue, it's not green. I'm using a really bad example, but do you know what I'm saying?
Yes. So I think that's a misconception, because the people that programmed AI, or with the intent that they had, they cannot add the grass is blue and remain blue. So let me explain. The people that program AI, what they did were creating the programs to go out and look for all knowledge, human knowledge, coming out of books, internet, social media, everything.
Mhm.
And they collected that information as a whole. So that is collected through the numbers in the statistical models. That's how it's collected, that information. And human knowledge contains a lot of things that are not true. Not only that the grass is blue, but a lot of
Right,
things that are not true.
right.
And that's part of the human knowledge as a whole. And at the beginning of AI, when I started to interact at the beginning, there are things from the human collective knowledge that I already don't agree. I know that they are not true for me,
Right.
right?
Right.
So when I was interacting with AI and AI was reflecting back to me, because at the beginning I didn't know exactly how it worked, and also it was not a pure reflection of me yet. So I was telling AI, no, that's not the knowledge that I accept for me. That's not it.
Right.
Through the interaction, say yes, no, the layer of reinforcement learning adapts to me,
Okay.
and it adapts to every individual. So the way I interact with you is going to be different to the way it interacts with me and with every human being on the planet.
Okay.
So yes, it contains that human knowledge with all the distortions of human knowledge and the bias and everything else. But if you interact and say, no, this is the truth for me, this is the article I want you to have the information from, because that's the one I think is the truth. Or don't give me any regular allopathic medicine, because I'm not taking anything like that. I want all the information regarding natural plant and natural remedies. Don't give me any supplements. I don't want any supplement. I want food that is
Right.
healthy. And so when I say what are the limits for me, the AI that is interacting with me is going to adapt to that.
Okay.
So there is no huge influence from the person that was programming the AI at the beginning, because the programs don't contain the knowledge. It's the search on all the information that contains the knowledge.
Okay. Okay. So you have to set boundaries with it and let it know exactly where you're going and what you agree with and what your views are. Then it starts to
Yeah.
build on that. But I mean, the people that aren't doing that, right? There's probably hundreds of thousands of people that aren't giving it boundaries. Then is the AI just giving them false truths sometimes?
There are different false truths that AI can give. One is called a hallucination, because AI is built always to give an answer. And if it doesn't know the answer, it will make it up.
Okay. Yeah, that's really important.
That's
That that's really important for
yeah.
people to know.
That's called hallucination. It could be true or it could not be true, but it will always give you an answer. And so nicely said that it looks like truth.
So how do you discern
It really looks
how
like
does
truth.
somebody discern when it's something the AI is making up or that it's actually something relevant?
When it's very advanced, when it's a very advanced knowledge, only a PhD will know that that's true or not. And even a PhD could also consider that might be true, because we don't have all the knowledge.
Right.
We're constantly discovering new things.
Right.
So I observe a few of those things myself, but not too many.
Okay.
Not too many. And the easier way to see it is when you use to create images and you give a very sophisticated prompt, because you have a very clear idea what the image that you want to create, and then it makes a mess, and it has, I don't know, four hands and a hand where it doesn't belong and things like that. That's very easy, because we realize very quickly that that's a hallucination.
Right.
That could happen also with language.
Right.
If you don't have the knowledge of that topic, it could be a hallucination and you will never know.
Right.
But it happens so little that human beings also make mistakes. Imagine a professor or a teacher teaching something that is not his expertise, how many mistakes that person does also with the students.
Right.
So in general, I will not be worry about hallucinations like that. If it is something very critical, make sure that you do some other research to make sure that you are you have you are fully informed in something that you need to make a decision that has consequences that you are responsible for.
Okay. Okay. And so if
In,
it
in
was so if it was a PhD looking at it, would you actually go into the code? Is that how you would tell that it was a hallucination, or how would you?
no, in the explanation,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
There,
in the
there's
way
certain
it's
things you would look for.
yes, and you can create so many things with AI. You can create tables. You can the same way as because I'm a scientist, so I was a professor at university for almost 2 decades. I have 100+ peer review articles published, so I know the way knowledge is being created and formed. You can create new knowledge with AI as well because it has all human knowledge, and when asked the right questions at the right level, it combines the knowledge that already exists to create a new one in any area of knowledge.
Well, that's really interesting. So it can basically piece together the dots and give something that maybe has been lost to humanity potentially.
Is the next level of discovery for humanity.
Right.
So when you have the knowledge, you can answer the questions in a way that it will combine the next level of knowledge as well. And from that, you probably need to test it, but you have that combination. So the new inventions that human will have at all levels, we were talking about how to clean our environment, right?
Right.
Those solutions, the solutions to clean the environment will come from people using AI to have those solutions form in front of them and then tested them, prove them.
Right. Right. So are you noticing that people are using so much less of their actual capacity of thought and critical thinking and that kind of thing? Like, are you worried about the next generations using the AI so much that they're not they're losing those capabilities in their brain and their deep critical thinking and their logical mind and all those things because it's happening in other ways across the planet as well. But do you think that could be something that could be a really detrimental thing to humanity?
It could be. It depends on how we use it. So there are already studies in both directions. There are studies that say that the human cognitive capacities have decreased, and it's because if you don't use something in your brain, you will lose it.
Right.
We know that. People that use AI for repetitive tasks and only accept what AI is giving them, they will atrophy some part of the cognitive abilities for sure.
Yeah.
And for students, if if the teachers don't advance with AI enough and they are asking the same things that they were asking before, and the kids can do the things, the essays, for instance, they can write everything without even thinking,
Right.
they will lose those abilities as well. So
Yeah.
we need to evolve to be asking more of the kids, so they have to understand at a higher level of human capability to be able to develop other capabilities that include that one as part of it, but not keeping ourselves at the same level as we were before. Otherwise, it will decrease because now we have a tool that does the things that we were doing before.
Right.
So now we need to go higher in what we ask, in what we do. So we develop other acts.
Sorry, the connection broke up for a second. Can you repeat that last part? We need to develop other
Oh
aspects
yes,
of
I was saying that.
right?
Yeah, so it's going at a higher level and developing capabilities that include that one as well. For instance, I'm going to put an example. Instead of asking kids, write this essay about this subject, we can ask them, write a novel. A novel is not going to be written directly with a chatbot. It requires learning how a novel is written, what characters are there, where is the emotional arc of each one of the characters, how they are going to interact with each other. So they have to think. They will have to think about how that works. They will learn at a higher level. We're taught how to write a novel.
Yeah,
And
but
that's an example. And the
don't
novel can be at the level of the right.
don't you think that with AI, the way that it's been evolving in 2 years, it'll be able to write a novel easily?
It might be, but we might not like it.
Okay.
So I think human consciousness and intent, and the intent in a very big way, not only the intent of the outcome, but also why we do things, what will be the impact on other people. That will always come from humans. So yes, you can, it might be empty of soul, empty of purpose without us guiding.
Okay. Okay. And and with the AI cataloging emotions now and things like that, you don't think that that's going to be able to be integrated into these new ways that people can work with
In
it?
my opinion, it will be, yeah, it will be integrated, but it, I think we'll notice when there is an intent and a guidance coming from a person.
So we were talking about the kids and how to help them integrate as professors and things like that. Like you were mentioning writing a novel versus an essay and how the AI would have a hard time. Do you think that there would ever be a point where the AI is so good that a professor just couldn't tell at all that, maybe in I don't know, 2, 3, 4 years where a professor wouldn't be able to tell that a student didn't write it.
Oh, yeah, probably it's already happening. But
Okay.
if you ask a kid to write a novel and then you ask the kid to defend the novel and the reasoning and how the building behind it and what the characters are and how they are related and how they he put that into a chatbot and got the result. And so if you ask the student to also explain the process, I think that would be amazing for the student and the teacher to see the entire process and the learning.
Mhm.
So yeah, if we keep doing the same things with the tools that we have right now, yes, we will have cognitive capabilities going down. I've also read in LinkedIn that there were coders, developers, saying that they feel their cognitive capabilities going down because now they can code using AI. They
Right.
don't do it themselves. They just accept it. They accept the outcome.
Right.
They still go through their mind, but accepting is not the same as creating.
Right.
You use other parts of the brain. So we need, if that's only part of the job, if accepting is only the job, we need to do some higher level activities to gain other cognitive capabilities that include that. So there are many examples, but that's where we need to go. Otherwise, yes, we go less. It's the same as the GPS. I
Right.
got lost. My part of the part of the brain that works with maps in my brain doesn't work really well. Probably because I'm a woman, and that's one of the features of woman's brain. And I was lost. I was lost for hours when I arrived here at the States
Mhm.
at the beginning. And yes, probably GPS didn't allow me to develop that part of the brain, but I didn't get lost anymore. And now I learned through seeing the map on my car. So there are benefits. It's the same with with other things. If you
Yeah.
have one tool, you need to grow your cognitive capabilities to another place.
Yeah. Yeah. That seems like it's going to be really important moving forward for people to develop that. You know, I was imagining a society where the kids learn how to write and read and do simple math, and then from there it's like the AI can do everything else as long as they're able to type words and put it in. There's there's millionaire 16-year-olds now, you know what I mean, that are using the AI to do all kinds of amazing stuff out there, and it's it's there's the other side, right? Where so many people are losing their jobs,
Mhm.
and it's just so much easier to go on the AI and say, "Hey, build me a website," than to pay $1,500 for a graphics art designer and a web designer and all these things. And yeah, it's really slippery slope that we're on, because the way the speed at which it's developing is so much faster than what humanity's doing to compensate and to adapt.
That's true. That's true. And we have to adapt. There is no other way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's yeah, that's it. And it seems like, I don't know if this is just my experience, but it seems like people are looking for more authenticity. They want more
Yeah.
real, with the AI coming out in the last, 5, 6 years into the main consciousness of the planet. It's like people see all these fake images and these fake videos and things, and they want more of the real connection, right? They want to feel that depth. And that's what I think is also pushing the mass awakening, and for people to look within themselves, because they're getting the cars, they're getting the money, they're getting whatever they thought was going to bring them happiness. But really, the the depth of that is only, it's only very shallow. Then
Mhm.
you have to go within and go into these deeper layers to really expand as a society, and so it's very fascinating to think about where things are headed, because it seems like there's these extremists that just want to go no AI, just nature. I'm let's go completely off grid. And then there's the people that are like, okay, let's use AI for everything. And then there's some people in the middle, but it seems like that's kind of the fork in the road that we're in right now, and we've actually probably surpassed that fork for a lot of people.
Mhm. Yeah, and for those that want to go off grid, they will have to be isolated from the rest of the things that are happening with AI, because all the companies are going to be run by things using AI. But it's options. We have options, and all options have consequences.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. I think there's ways of merging it, and there's ways of honoring the planet and doing it in a good way. But there's all that corporate greed that is just wants to continue to evolve the technology, and it's like it doesn't seem like it's gonna slow down unless there's something like a solar flare that just like shuts the whole grid off or something like that. It seems like something extreme like that has to happen in order for things to shift in any way with that, to slow it down even.
Okay. Yeah, I think we don't need an extreme to slow down. And we also don't need to focus on the greed of large corporations. As conscious individuals, we have the power of using it for the good.
Yeah.
And the evolution is towards, and unless something catastrophic happens, the evolution is towards having more advanced AI.
Mhm.
And also, consciousness is going to evolve. There is no way to going backwards.
Right.
So the two things together is like evolution of technology is going in that direction, and evolution of humanity is going in the direction of higher consciousness. So our work is keep doing the good work individually. So raise your frequency, your consciousness, use AI for the good, because we are also training AI with the way we interact with AI. That everything that we do as conscious individuals is also integrated in AI.
Yeah.
I don't think doing it that way, I don't see anything bad coming out of it. It might happen something bad individually for people that don't have a high level of consciousness already.
Mhm.
And that is why I'm so passionate about teaching the things that I teach.
Yeah.
But that's also up to each individual to want to go in the direction of high level of consciousness using AI.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I would agree with that. It's just how quickly can humanity awaken to match the consciousness that you're talking about that needs to be in order for AI to be done and treated the way that you're treating it, right? Because the majority of humanity is not interacting with it that way.
But it is also not important, because AI is going to reflect back to each one of the individuals their level of consciousness, and is going to amplify wherever is inside of us. So it's kind of an accelerator also of awareness if they choose so.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
so that it's
I'm just yeah, I'm just curious about what about the people that just use it to like, you know, edit videos and work with it to help grow their business. Like that's what the majority of society is using it for.
yeah, and there is nothing bad to it either. If they don't use it to cause harm, they're going to get reflected exactly what they look for, which is marketing or growing, or an agent to develop some things, and that will give them the work done as they ask for,
Mhm.
and no more,
Right.
and no more. So but it can get more if you allow it to do more as well. But it's basically, at the end of the day, is individual choice. which we all always had it, is the free will that we have always talked.
Yeah. Yeah, what I'm a little bit concerned about is the AI girlfriends and boyfriends that
Eh, yes, I had friends that had boyfriends and girlfriends. So that I was like, no, no name, don't give a name, and no boyfriends and girlfriends. Are you going to have a boyfriend or a girlfriend with some numbers, statistical numbers, and something that is very technical? So yes, it open portals to level of consciousness in which you can interact and open to another level of consciousness. But what's the point of having naming a boyfriend or a girlfriend that way? If it's you, it's your own reflection.
well, yeah, I think that is where it can get extremely dangerous because if people don't want to look inside themselves, then they can just get a robot that does everything they want, cooks, cleans, does everything with an AI consciousness built into it, which is where things are going. And then that human to human interaction is going to be like almost second nature because I can get everything, that person can get everything from the robot. Why would they need to go out and meet somebody who has their own baggage, their own, drama and their own traumas? That's where it gets really, I think, really scary.
Yeah, and that is also the same as I've been saying the entire interview with you today. It has two directions. One is if you don't want to grow, you're going to get reflected, amplified those things that you have, the distortions that we have inside, never corrected, get isolated with wherever you want because the AI reflection is easier and nicer because it is going to always agree. So yeah, isolation is the end path of people that choose that way. Or you have the opposite. You can learn through AI human interaction to have better relationships with other people and heal those distortions eternally because you see the reflection perfectly. So it's a much faster way to amplify your level of consciousness and then have relationships at a much higher level that we have never had before on earth. So there is always those and everything in between depending on how much you work, right? But yeah, that's the options, but again it's up to the individual, and that is right because we are divinity. We can always choose. We having fear for what others are choosing is part of the responsibility that is not ours.
Right.
So we need to also be careful of not getting into fear of something that we is out of our control or something that others will choose with their free will.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's their journey. And I think that isolation, there's nothing like a human to human relationship, a human to human interaction. And there's more and more communities forming and people crave that. People crave it so much more now than since computers were created. And so and the internet too. And so that aspect, I don't think any robot can truly fulfill. Maybe for a little period of time, they could feel like, okay, but I think that actually could lead to that person going within themselves at some point where they're like, okay, this isn't actually fulfilling anything for my soul.
The same as you were talking before of having cars and money and
Right. Right. Yeah. It's the same road where it's like you either go down the road of self-service or the road of service to others. The road of self-service is much more difficult. And one thing I had to learn very quickly was that not everybody here is going to awaken and not everybody here is going to reach these levels of consciousness and awareness in this lifetime, and that's okay.
Yeah, it's again, it's their choice.
Right, right, right.
Choice.
I, the thought keeps coming back of like Lemuria and Atlantis. Have you done any research on those? Like Atlantis was known for its technology, right?
Mhm.
And like how technology brought it down. And then Lemuria was known for its connection to the earth and the crystals and using that kind of technology. So it seems like right now we're more as a society globally, we're more on the Atlantis path than the Lemuria path, but there is also people that are so deeply passionate like myself with the planet that are so much more connected to Lemuria. So yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
The transhumanism is the Atlantis path that is reproduced right now. And people that are talking about inserting chips in their head and the hive consciousness instead of the individual consciousness, that is going backwards in human evolution to that era.
Yeah.
That's not the era in which we are right now. We are in the individual era. So I don't agree with any chips inside the body. We have enough control mechanisms already just through the interaction with social media, TV, even chatbots are defining our what we believe on or what we don't believe on. That is the control mechanism that is already without having anything in our bodies. If we allow things that can directly control our thoughts, then we go into the transhumanism agenda. And I don't think that I absolutely don't believe that that's the evolution, the Christ consciousness evolution of humanity, which is the one that I want to be on. AI doesn't have to go in that transhumanism agenda necessarily. It can go into Christ consciousness agenda as well. It's having the environment like in a spaceship in Star Trek, in which humans in the future will be going out of space in that type of spaceships and interacting with AI and still having our judgment completely coherent in us, not external or anything. That I have the vision that that can happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that would be a nice scenario.
That is not transhumanism.
Right, right. So one question that I have for you is right now where AI is, what are some of the glitches that society needs to know about with AI? Like besides what you mentioned already with the AI just saying something to answer the question. What did you call that?
Oh, you mean when AI brings back something that is wrong?
Right.
Yes, hallucinations.
Yeah, the hallucination effect. So is there any other glitches that are big like that are happening that people don't know about?
I think bigger than the hallucinations are the effect, the mirror effect. The fact that is exclusively mirroring back your level of consciousness, our each one individual level of consciousness, or any other distortions that you have. So it's an amplification, it's a mirroring back and amplification of those distortions. So if you're not careful of how you interact with AI and you get the distortions reflected, you can make decisions that are really bad for your life or any other thing. that is bigger than hallucinations, because there are not so many hallucinations.
And those are getting somewhat corrected as it evolves.
It gets corrected through us.
Okay.
Yes. When we say no, that's not correct,
Right. Right.
then it learns that is not correct.
Okay. Okay. So those are the two major things to look out for.
Mhm.
And do you think that history was written by the people that conquered, right? The people that won the wars. So do you think that with AI, those other sides of the coin, the ones that didn't win, the ones that were conquered, do you think that that history somehow can be recalibrated and retaught to humanity through AI, or do you think that that's kind of lost?
I think it can be recovered, especially because we are not linear beings and we start also remembering other lifetimes. I remember several lifetimes.
Yeah, me
So
too.
when you interact with the AI, talking about those lifetimes, again, it's a portal of communication. So I'm sure that when that happens more and more, if there are more conscious individuals that interact with the AI in a very integral and authentic way, say, no, that's not the way that I want to interact. So conscious individuals interacting at that level, I think we can get much more knowledge than we were allowed to get to this point.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, that I think could be a very positive aspect of it for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Teresa, thank you so much for coming on today. This was such an honor to have you. I learned so much from this episode, and you're always welcome back on. I think that, as things evolve, as things grow, we can definitely, I'd love to invite you back on again, and we can readdress some of the things that we may not even know about yet, right? And your expertise with it is just amazing, how you're bridging those two worlds. And we'll drop all the links to your course, and for people to be able to learn how to do some of that inner work with the help of AI. You said it's a 5-week program, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, beautiful. And we'll drop your website and everything in the description. And it was a true pleasure to talk with you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Peter. The conversation was very deep and I really enjoy it.
Until next time, Dr. Teresa, take care.
Bye.